All right, so again, good morning, and hopefully you guys can see my screen. You guys see Chrome up with Canvas. So this is the page that for today, and the last one for project one, right? I'll put an assignment up after class where you can actually submit your project one. But let's talk about what you're submitting, and basically everything that you've done up to now has been for a purpose, right? So it's you've only been working on stuff that will show up in the project one final. So there's no redundant work or anything like that, but we're putting it all together. So in this case, we're using Illustrator and all of the assets that you created, using Rhino and Grasshopper and Photoshop and Illustrator to compose a presentation poster or board, right? That could be plotted. You don't have to print it out for this class, but and so I've provided the start of an Illustrator template, and I'll talk about how I generated it and some of the components of it here in just a moment. But let's just talk about it for a moment. I'll just read this to you. Putting it all together using the Illustrator template provided below, plug in your project one deliverables to compose a presentation poster. Be sure to use your best judgment on the following considerations. And hint, this will be my grading rubric. So this is how I will be evaluating your stuff. And so, you know that. And so now you can know especially what to focus on and look at and think about as you compose your own poster. So first and foremost, creating a clear and clean ordering of the information, right? So we typically do this with guides. We typically superimpose some sort of grid on our paper, and then we follow that grid and adhere to it without any exceptions, right? And that's just laying things out, graphic composition, graphic design 101. So consistent use of the compositional rules and ordering system. So that would be adhering to the grid in the columns and rows, any kind of spacings or any other kinds of rules that you need to make here. Appropriate typeface and font sizes where necessary. It's not like you have to write a bunch of text or anything, but you'll see in a moment I do want you to at least put a title on your poster. The second item, visual emphasis. So it's not just about putting things into a grid, but it's about, again, this is a design project. In this case, as designers, whenever you're crafting a piece of visual communication, right? A visual hierarchy is necessary. So establish a visual hierarchy where the most important pieces of information are emphasized the most, right? Now, if you don't think that's important, I disagree. Here, look at this. Right? I mean, these are the tricks we play as designers, right? Where we immediately draw the viewer's attention to a particular place and then direct it around the page, right? This is how we do architecture as well, but certainly when it comes to graphics, to visual graphic design, we definitely have to provide that sort of hierarchy and emphasis to the right things, right? Otherwise, you get something that's so busy that the viewer's eye just can't stop. It just moves around and doesn't know where to go, right? Okay, so thinking about that, right? That there's something one graphic that sort of gets the viewer's attention first, and then it can move on. They, he, she, whoever it is, can move on and sort of, again, read the poster in a particular fashion, right? All right. Then the last item on this is a really simple rubric, right? But just making sure that the work is complete, that you did everything. So the graphic components of the poster are complete and well crafted, both the perspective and the axonometric drawings, right? So the perspective and axon drawings, following those steps, making sure things are complete, things like line weights, for instance, in your axon, and line types and things like that have been adjusted, that your perspective drawings, you put people or entourage in them, collaging them, you rendered things, you had shaders, you try to match contrast and shadows and lighting direction with, between the sort of components that you brought into this collage, the architecture, and then the people that are inhabiting and populating it, using it. that you really, I think, tried to tie everything together with some sort of color map or overlay layer. A title for your project and poster. If you are running out of ideas, generative lattice could, you could certainly start by looking at how it's described in the project brief and using that. Ultimately, this is the template file that I'm giving you to use, and we'll open that up in a minute and talk about it here in detail about how I generated it and some of the steps and behind the scenes in Illustrator that I want you to at least know about. And if you need to tweak things, you can do on your own. The rest of this week is in-course workshops to help complete project one, right? Again, some of you are still in Grasshopper trying to bake things in just so you can generate all of the drawings that, half the project is just the drawings. So if you're way behind, please email me like 3 weeks ago and I'll work my hardest to get you caught up. But it's pretty late in the game, but you can do it. Your project one poster, right? This is how you submit project one, right? Your poster, this graphic composition that you're creating is a PDF. I don't want a JPEG. What happens to a JPEG? I can't zoom in and out of it. It starts to pixelate, right? So again, make sure you submit it as a PDF file. You can just save directly as a PDF from Illustrator. All right. A week from today, right? So I'm giving you the rest of the week plus the weekend to finish these things up. And for some of you, you're right there. You could probably finish this up in class on Wednesday. And if so, that's great. That's wonderful. I don't want this class to be really cumbersome. I want to show you guys stuff, make sure that you're demonstrating that you can use the stuff. But ultimately, the real test is that you can continue to use it, and it's accessible enough that you can continue to use it for your studio, anything else that's appropriate, maybe C-Tech or whatever, right? So, the rest of this week, again, is just helping you out, right? Again, it's structured so that, I'm giving you an extra week. I sort of looked at the calendar and said, I'm not going to try to make people put together a poster over this past weekend, but we'll give you an extra week to do that. So that'd be really exciting, because then we'll start project two, which we'll deal with laser cutting. You'll have to buy a sheet or 2 or 3 of chipboard, which is not too expensive, maybe $7-8 each. Cut it down to the right size to fit in the laser cutter bed so that the cover can close. We'll be dealing with digital fabrication, so designing with production constraints, material constraints, and other performative constraints in mind, right? So we'll talk about performance, in this case, with providing shade from direct daylight or direct sunlight as well. So again, this class is relentless. It never stops. Everything, every day is new, except for this week, which is just review and getting people caught up that need it. Again, we'll be moving right ahead with project 2 next week. All right, so make sure you move heaven and earth to finish up project 1. All right, the rest of this week is in-course workshop. Okay, so I already said that. Let's take a look at this template, right? Very, very simple template. This is Illustrator. I hope you know that by now. And this document is 24 by 36 landscape orientation. Right, so that means the 36, or the long direction, is running horizontal. The short direction is running portrait or vertical. And again, so when you're creating a document, let's say when you first created it, you didn't adjust any of the settings for the size of the document. And so you're here. If you need to adjust the size of the document, right up here, document setup. There's a button up here. See where my cursor is, hopefully. Move my cursor like this, and it makes my cursor larger. Document setup, it brings up a box where I can edit my artboard. So here I can make sure the units are set to inches, right? Then hit edit artboards. You can see that I only have one artboard in here, and so it's selected. It's telling me right now that the width is 36 inches, the height is 24, and it's telling me where it's located. In fact, the center point is located on the the Cartesian coordinate system. So 18 inches in X and 12 inches in Y, which is about halfway down the Y axis and down the X axis. So that makes sense. And I'm just going to go back to my cursor here and get out of that. But if you ever need to change the document size, that's how to do it. Document setup, go to that edit artboards. You can change it all here, or you can click and drag and stretch and, to your heart's content. All right. Another thing, right? You'll see that there are rulers on the top and along the left, and that helps me sort of line things up, right? If you don't have those up automatically, you can go to the view pull down, right? This is the same with Photoshop. Go to the view pull down. This is the same with actually any Adobe product, so InDesign as well. And down here, there's rulers, and I can say hide rulers, and they've disappeared. But if they're gone, then when I go to view and I go to rulers, instead of hide rulers, it gives me the option to show rulers, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to say show rulers. What you'll see is a bunch of these bright cyan lines running through here in 3-inch increments, right? So with 36 and 24, both of those are divisible really easily by 3 inches, so 3-inch chunks, right? The way I generate those is by clicking and dragging out of the ruler, right? So the horizontal ruler, if I click and drag out, I can lay down a horizontal guide on my document. And then I can line it up with the ruler on the left-hand side, the vertical ruler, right? And try to line it up with, let's say, 4.5 inches or whatever. And then if I'm not satisfied that maybe I'm being really precise there, sorry, I have to move this out of the way because my zoom tools are up here. I can go up here with this selected. It's violet when it's selected. I can go up here and I can adjust that Y level, with precision. Let's say 4.5 inches, right? I can unselect it. I can select it again. I can delete it. Okay. But that's how you work with the guides. And what you'll find is in this template, I've already set up a set of layers for you. So the guides are all on a guides layer. I can lock that. I can unlock the axon drawing, the perspectives layer. Then there also notice that there's a black background to the document. I'm giving you that option, right? You can think about this as a white line drawing and set of perspectives on a black background. Or you can turn that layer off and get your default white background with a nice black line drawing and your renderings composed on here. Okay, so I'm giving you that option. You can turn that on or off depending on what you prefer, right? So I'm just going to really quickly show you how you can copy and paste and place things really quickly. I'll go back to just open up the exploded axon that I made the other day in class. 26 megabytes of lines, right? Some of you had some issues with drawing lines and doing the Make 2D. I suspect that has everything to do with the amount of stuff you're trying to draw and or the amount of stuff that your processor was chewing on along with this process of Make 2D. And so you can either restart your machine and make sure that everything's turned off except for Rhino when it's doing the Make 2D, see if that works. But ultimately, if you just have too much stuff, right, for your computer to handle, then again, the brilliance of parametric design, so you can go back to that graph in Grasshopper, slide that slide bar and have fewer things, and then bake them in and find that sweet spot between that sort of nice visual sophistication on one hand, the complexity, but at the same time, not having so much of it that it overwhelms your computer and you crash or it just becomes non-responsive for hours. Okay, so I'm throwing the ball back in your court, and I can always take a look at that. Several people emailed me often at the last second about that kind of stuff, and I'm happy to look at it with you. But that's going to be the two things I sort of advise first and foremost. Anyway, here it is. You can see I have a viewport rectangle, I have visible tangents, I have visible curves, I've seen silhouettes, right? I haven't really cleaned any of this up. I'll probably adjust some line weights, but this comes in its own document called exploded axon in this case. When I exported selected, right? I exported out of Rhino as an Illustrator file, just open it up straight up in Illustrator right here, right now. There it is. And so a couple of things. One is that if I select all of this stuff and I copy it and I paste it into my template file, it's going to paste everything and flatten everything into just the whatever active layer that my final template file is on, which is not good, right? It'll forget that some of these curves need to be on the scene silhouettes, and some of them are on the viewport rectangle, and some of them are invisible, etc. Right? So one of the first things I'm going to do when it comes to this layers box is I'm going to come to the settings, And I'm going to make sure that paste remembers layers is checked on. I want to make sure that there's a check mark there. What that means is when I copy and paste from one document to the next, it's going to remember the layer structure from the stuff that was copied, and it's going to paste the layer structure as well as the information, the line and path information, and keep everything sort of organized in those layers so it doesn't screw everything up for me. All right. So I'm going to make sure that that's checked. I'll select all this stuff. You know, if I don't want to click and drag, I can just go up here to select, pull down all. There we are. Just going to select everything in my artboard here. Actually, the entire document. It's a lot of stuff there. I'm going to hit Control C or Command C on the Mac. I'm going to paste, copy a lot of stuff on my clipboard here, right? Kind of crazy, but temporarily. And then I'm just going to Control V or Command V or paste, right? And paste this stuff in here. Bam, right? You can start to see the layers are showing up. Pretty soon all the lines are going to start to show up. Whew. You know, I feel like that's a lot of work for my computer, but you know, I didn't really do anything except move my mouse around the screen a little bit. All right, so I'm going to very carefully start to look at these layers. First and foremost, I'm going to select all of these layers. I'm going to select the top one. I'm going to hit the Shift key and select the bottom one. It's going to select everything in between, just like if you were selecting multiple files on your desktop or in Explorer or something. Sorry, just get rid of that fuzzy on my keyboard there. And I'm just going to, you know, select everything, and I'm going to click and drag. I'm going to try to, oh, no, maybe. Sorry, let's see here. It's doing something really squirrely. There we are. Anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going to put it on the perspective, or sorry, the axon drawing layer. And that way, the axon drawing layer is just this sort of sub, or this sort of heading layer. And I have a bunch of sub layers that I can, you know, get in here. So when I want to turn the axon on or off, or just lock everything all at once, I can just do it here, right, with that axon. Or I can go in and just, you know, select just the viewport rectangle, or just the visible curves, or just the scene silhouette, etc. Okay. One other thing I did here, and I'm just going to go ahead and place it, is I brought out just a quick rendered view by capture the screen, my screen port, my viewport. Once I was done with my Make 2D, right, I did the capture viewport, and I'm going to bring that in as well. So I'm just going to place that as a PNG file. Let's see here, where is it? Today at 9:45. Sounds about right. Okay. Yeah, it's ridiculously large, right? Because I was anticipating 24 by 36 documents, so I made this just silly large. I mean, that's crazy large. Fantastic. All right. You know, what I'm going to do here is, instead of just continuing to sort of stretch it and drag it around, I'm just going to go to height. I'm going to say, you know, maybe I'll make the height, let's start with 24 inches, right? Because I have, you know, 24 inches of stuff to span here. See what that looks like. That's an awful lot of my poster, but it sure does look nice. So maybe I'll use that. All right. Now I'm going to make one more sub layer here. I'm just going to do that, move that down. And I call that rendering, right? Select this PNG that I placed and put it on the rendering file down below all my line work. I'm just going to lock that one. There we are. I'm going to click this. I'm going to drag this around. Let's say I'm going to make this 24 inches tall too, right? If I did my, and I might have made a mistake here. I might have moved my viewport size around a bit. But if my viewport size was the same when I did the Make 2Ds, when I did the rendering and captured the render, then I can line these up really quite easily, right? That viewport rectangle should be the exact same size and shape of my of this rendering, and then I can just sort of line them up really nice and easy. We'll see if I actually manage to do that, right? You guys have already done this exploded axon line drawing. You do not have to put this underlay underneath. I'm just going to do it right now because it, you know, why not? It looked nice. I'm just waiting on this to resize. This is a very cumbersome drawing, right? Any good drawing will be. It's incredible. Go ahead and set that Y to 0. There we are. Move that up into space. All right. It's taking a while. After this, I'll do some quick line weight adjustments here. By quick, I mean, well, what's the opposite of quick? It seems like. Let's see. I didn't look at the X coordinate over here. Oh, drats. Well, I'll go ahead and type in 0 for now and just slide it over that way a bit. And then I'll take a look. So I'm just going to, again, sort of move this stuff around. You know, one thing I'm going to do, since I have this underlay, it's kind of dark. What I'll probably do is select it and turn its opacity down a bit just to really lighten it up. So just get a little bit of tone, but not overwhelming. You know, I had the ground plane on for the rendered part. And so I don't like how this doesn't look so feathered, the soft shadow. So I might also, you know, tone this down just to try to get rid of that. If I need to, I could always go to Photoshop and open up this PNG file and get my feathered brush for the eraser and try to fuzz that out a bit, right? So you can use all of your, oops, I accidentally typed it in for the width and the height. Oops, I just adjusted my size to 0 and 0 inches. That's what a terrible idea that was. All right, Josh, try to act a little smarter now. Come on now, let's just do this. All right, where's the rendering? There we go. All right, that's at negative 9.408. So I'll just copy that X value. I'll lock this up. Just gonna zoom out a bit here. Again, keeping everything on layers nice and organized, I can lock certain things. So when I sort of, you know, drag a selection window around things, I can make sure I'm just selecting the things I want, not everything else. All right, I'll slide this over with the exact same X dimension, negative 9.408. Let's see if this actually lines up. It'd be great if it did. In theory, that's the whole point. Right. Oh, money. Look at that. Oh, it's so close. It's not quite, but oh, excruciatingly close. Looks like it just needs to bump over just a smidge. Let's see if I can get it to bump over an X here, just to bump it over with my keyboard a bit. Looks pretty consistently off in either end here. So let's see if I can. Gotta watch how many times you hit the keyboard arrows, because this has such a lag to it. You know, it might take a while, and then you've overshot, which that would be tragic to do extra work, wouldn't it? And again, I haven't gone through and done the line weight adjustments. The folks who have, and there's a number of you, well done, good job. That's just less work that you have this week, right? If you're still finishing up, that's fine, right? As I mentioned, and but you do need to finish it for this, right? And oh, really? It just bumped over just a little too much. All right. Of course it did. Let's see here. Oh, it's still going. Oh no. All right. See, this is exactly what I told you not to do. And now I'm paying for it. That's not nice. Oh no. It just keeps going to the left. All right, let's see if it's done now. I had it just lined up too. Darn it. Ah, it's still going. Each little keyboard. Oh no. All right. Let's, oh, come on. I wish I could just tell it to stop doing that. Like, yeah. Okay, select. I'll select all. All right, one more time here. I'm just going to bump it over very carefully. This is, oh gosh. Might get this done in spite of myself here. Let's see. A lot of lines, isn't it? Now imagine generating the construction document set for this. Be a lot of drawings. All right. I might need to do one more after these updates, but let's see. So I'll adjust line weights and then I'll place the perspective. I'll change the opacity of this rendering underlay here, rendered underlay. Let's see if I just get it to. This is where I'm just too picky for an in-class demonstration, but probably. Let's see where it goes here. Okay. Just don't move anymore, please. Okay, sorry about that. I'm just waiting for this to, oh, it did, it moved a little too much. No, oh, yikes, all right. Well, I'm done with this for the time being because I'm not gonna bore you guys to death. Although you guys are probably laughing at me. I wouldn't blame you either. Come on, how is it really? Oh. Sorry, I'm just trying to zoom out here. You guys are probably laughing because you guys probably ran into some pretty slow stuff too, right? So let's see here. And of course, you can turn different layers on or off just to make things more responsive as you go. All right. Yep. All right. Finally, at least it's responsive now. It's really tempting just to maybe move the underlay instead of the line work now. Just get it under. Let me just try to unlock it here. This is a disaster. All right. So if I had that black background selected and turned on, I wanted to slow down. Data recovery has been turned off. Turn data recovery on. Okay, great. So the data recovery is turned off. So that's going to help things a little bit there. All right. So with this rendering, I'll select that. Just bump it over a smidge. I'm going to turn down its opacity a bit. All right. There we are. Okay. And I'm just going to lock this layer before I screw anything else in it. Okay. My guides are still on. Maybe I'll throw in a couple of perspectives. Oh, wait, here, let me just go here and turn off that viewport rectangle. I don't need that anymore. He's not on. Perspectives is the only layer that's unlocked. So it's set to the active layer. I can just go ahead and place, right? File, pull down, place. Start to find some of my perspectives. I think I have a couple of drafts in here. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So much yellow and orange in that one. It makes my teeth hurt, but I like that one better. Let's try that one. Again, this thing is ridiculously large. 159 inches wide. It seems a bit extreme. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's say width. Let's say I have 1, 3, 6, 9, 12. So 9 to 12 inches of width I need to fill. So I'll go ahead and change the width to, let's say, 12. There we go. Now I can see how this thing starts to fit on here and snap it to that grid, right? Line things up. So now I have 1, 2, 3. Then I have room for something else down here, like maybe a title or something, right, if I need it. One of the things I'm going to do is just double check this. Let's see, 12 inches. It's on the top left is at 24 and 0. Okay, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. Let's say place. Let's find another one of these maybe. I don't know what that is. Yeah, just some drafts I haven't really done anything with in Photoshop yet, right? That's what I'm thinking. I'll just throw this one in. You guys have 3 Photoshopped collages, right? Width, again, I'll pick 12 inches. There we are. Again, I'm just going to make sure that that snaps to the grid. So if it encroaches over the top of this one, that's fine. And there we are. And this one, again, is going to have to be clipped or cropped by the one that sits on top of it. So let me just Again, go here, let's see, place, right? So again, I'm just being careful, right? And I'm trying to think, okay, where's the eye drawn? How do I want to see? I have this big drawing. In this case, with all this line work, I want to make it large, right? I've done all that work to it. I want everybody to see that detail. So I'm going to make it 24 inches tall, let it fill the space, let the perspectives in this case sort of conform to the sort of leftover space, one might say, afterwards here. That one's kind of a nice vertical one. I don't know. The same one as this one? Let's see. Do I have a third somewhere here? No, that's different. I'll just pop that one in. I don't really care that much. These are ridiculously large, 104 megabyte files, right? Let's see here. It's stupidly big. And that's why it takes a minute or two for it to really generate these. All right, 12 inches tall. That would, I mean, that doesn't have enough contrast to it. So it's kind of washed out here. All right. Okay, strict adherence to the grid, right? You know what would bug me is if this one was just a little taller than the rest because I couldn't do that. Now, if I just click on it and do this, I stretch it, which I don't want to do, right? There's a couple of things I can do. I can make a clipping mask and make a shape over top of it, or what I can do is I can just make a shape, right? A rectangle, a box with a white fill and zero outline. And then just click and drag and cover that up maybe for the time being. There we are. Yeah. All right. And, from there, maybe it's about, coming up with some text. Let's see here. I'd want to move this over probably and center it a little more. It seems a little close to there, but so maybe I'll do that in a moment. But let me just put a text box here. Size 12 seems a bit small. Generative lattice, Joshua Vermillion. Let's see what we got here. Oh, come on now. All right. Let's make that taller. Okay. So first of all, by default, it made my typeface the worst font in the entire universe, Myriad Pro. The only thing worse than that is Papyrus. So I'm going to go with probably something nice like Arial, Helvetica, Helvetica Neue, Times New Roman, or Book Antiqua. If you prefer a serif font, Arial is nice and simple. I think I'll just go with that. And I think I'll just beef up parts of this. There we go. Make that larger. Let's make it bold and italic. I don't think my name needs to be that large. It's like I'm shouting it or something. Also would help if I spelled it correctly. Nothing worse than misspelling your own name on an assignment, no less. On a spelling test, I guess would be the only thing worse. But yeah, let's take that down to something like 24. Something that doesn't, yeah, there we go. Come on. No, maybe I'll put the course number or maybe the course name, advanced digital media. UNLV School of Architecture, Architorture sometimes is what it feels like, huh? All right. Right, and I can begin to try to compose this and line it up with the grid or whatever, right? If I thought about this, maybe I have, some text from the brief. And if so, I'd make that like size 12 and put it in small columns underneath or something like that if I really wanted to. In this case, I think I'll just center it up here. See what that looks like down here, maybe. Yeah, I'm not so happy with that, but I got to do something down here. Part of this is maybe I could, if I have too much room, is, I could always think about, again, one of these being larger or, something like that, but I wanted it here to the grid either way, right? So for instance, let me get rid of that one. Let's say I had let's see, place. There was one up here that was more vertical. Yeah, an orientation. There we are. Width, 12 inches, right? Yeah, that's vertical, right? Now, it's like we almost have too much here, right? All right. So let's get some of that floor underneath. There we go. And then I'll put on a black box. I'll change that color to white. There we are. Right, so I'm just doing this. Maybe in this case, I'll make this one, I'll move this one up to bring to front. There we are. All right. And then let's see. Zoom in here. Undo, bring to back. Let's see. Do I not have the select? Oh, I have the wrong thing selected. That's why. There we are. Undo, bring to front. Let's see. Send to back. Where'd my text go? Bring to front. Bring forward. Bring forward. Come on, bring forward. There we are. Okay, and so now I can, again, I can start to play this game, right? Where let's unlock all of this stuff. Let's turn it on. Let's select all of it. Maybe then as a whole, I bump it over a couple of clicks on my keyboard to the left, try to sort of better center it up so that the space between the model edge over here and the edge, and then this model edge and this edge are a little more even, right? Sort of center things up here. Careful, 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 right? Let's see. And of course, just line weights, which most of you have done, or a lot of you have done, right? I'm just sort of thinking out loud here. So don't be afraid to do something dynamic, even though you're still, adhering to this grid, right? I'll show you some examples of what they did in the past. They had slightly different parameters than you did, as far as the types of deliverables and the size of the template. But nevertheless, I think you can see that they were able to use their creativity here. And so I don't want to sort of take the creativity out of this, but I do want to make sure everybody sort of adheres to a grid, which is really important. I mean, just can't just throw things on willy-nilly, right? Like these should all line up. Like there's no debate about that, right? Like just do it, right? Just make sure everything lines up in columns and rows and sort of matches up with the grid. Let me pull up the examples now that I think about it. Let's see here. I have to find them really quickly. Sorry, I just gotta find the actual file here. That would help, wouldn't it? There we are. Yeah, so here's a collection of them, basically. I'll just pop these up here on the screen. Right, so each of their posters were 12 by 36 in landscape orientation. And they actually had the requirement to do more sort of line drawing diagrams. What we're doing is we're focusing on quality rather than quantity. So we just have that one exploded axon that's super nice instead of having a bunch of little line drawings with lots of stuff on them. We also did a lot more in Photoshop, trying to sort of paint a, pun intended, paint sort of more experiential architectural experience with our renderings rather than just sort of focusing on the form. but giving some materiality, giving some lighting qualities, getting some scale, placing some people in there, speeding to just program a little bit here and there, with people wandering, sitting, loitering, running, whatever it is in it. So, but you can see that, even with a simple formula, they were able to make some fairly dynamic compositions. And I'd like for you to try the same, right? All right, I will stop sharing at this point.